Rebonjour, chers frères et sœurs. Comme vous pouvez le constater au-dessus de la photo de la Sainte Face de la télévision, là-bas au-dessus, il y a une manifestation de la lumière divine. Vous pouvez voir le petit point là-bas. Merci Seigneur pour tes manifestations à travers la lumière divine. Voilà Maman Marie qui est bien éclairée. Mais ici où il m'a posé souvent, nous voyons une manifestation là-bas. Je suis assise au même endroit, sur mon canapé. Et vous avez la lumière divine qui est au-dessus de nous, comme vous voyez là. Le petit point vous montre. Et la lumière descend là. Et là, vous avez deux points qui descendent là. Et nous observons ensemble la manifestation divine à cet endroit. Vous voyez bien que le petit point nous montre quelque chose là. La lumière divine est là au-dessus du balcon, du plafond, pardon, qui vient couvrir où je suis assise en train de lire Ecclésiasticus, on l'appelle Sirach. Brothers and sisters, we are in front of the manifestation of the Lord's light, as you can see. On top of the holy face, there is a big manifestation there. You see the small enlightened light. I don't know how to call it. Let us see what is there. And we have like it's raining on top of us. You can see by yourself the light is giving us another scenario. Between the TV and the Holy Face picture, we are reading the gospel. It seems like there are two persons there. You see how the light is moving. Oh Lord, thank you. This is wisdom that comes from God. An unseen God. We call it seeing the unseen God. Thank you, Lord. la manifestation de la lumière divine que nous voyons et nous disons merci au Seigneur. Merci Seigneur. Voyez le petit point là. Mais il nous montrait un autre point là. On ne sait pas. Le Fils de Dieu vient nous enseigner cet évangile qu'il a écrit. Il a écrit lui-même. Il a prêché dans les synagogues et dans les villages. Dans les temples aussi, il a prêché. Il a décidé de rassembler son peuple en une seule nation, l'Église universelle, qui a le devoir de faire sortir ses écrits, ses enseignements, afin que tout le monde sache qui est Dieu. Nous allons donc lire Ecclésiastes. Ecclésiasticus. Pardon. Ouais. God is God. The light is there, brothers and sisters. On top of us, we have the light. Here. Let us read. And you can see that the light is here. When you see my chair, then you can understand that the light is still on us. So, Ecclesiastes is all things are vanity. That is the book called Ecclesiastes. It is Koheleth, another name for the book, is a feminine Hebrew word which appears to be derived from the Hebrew noun koala, meaning assembly. This is apparently the way it was understood in the 70s, which translated it as ecclesiast. Hence, the term collect may be understood to mean the following: one who addressed assembly, that is, a preacher or speaker, one who collects or gathers. In this latter sense, it is possible to think either of persons being assembled together for instructions. It could also mean some sentences of wisdom or aphorism gathered together for the purpose of teaching. It must be pointed out, therefore, that the title Kohelet or Koheleth is not intended to be used as a personal name, but as the description of an office, an activity, or function. The feminine gender of the word presents a difficulty because if the word or title is applied to Solomon, the feminine gender appears incongruous. The use of the feminine may be explained as follows. Since the book refers to a king in Jerusalem, the feminine form of word may denote an office or a function. In this sense, the term Koheleth could signify the office of speaker in the assembly and refer to wisdom. This interpretation allows the reader to view Ecclesiastes not so much as a sermon, but rather as an address, a discourse, or a lecture. The character of the book is not sermonic, but sapiential. It sets forth certain viewpoints on the meaning and value of life. The Solomon of the book should be regarded not as a particular preacher, but as the ideal teacher of wisdom. The words in epilogue, Ecclesiastes 12, verse 9 to 14, are usually taken to be a contribution from a pupil, although they might also be the author's own postscript and self-commendation. It used to be held that Ecclesiastes is full of interpolation and intended to counterbalance the skepticism of the original writer, but the prevailing option today is that it is the work of a single author with very few interpolations. For a careful appraisal of the form of and the structure of Qoheleth, the following points must be taken into consideration. A. The impact that a strongly individualistic mind has on the overall unity of a book, which is a loosely connected account of Qoheleth's wisdom. B. The wavering between an inherited religious faith and a spirit of critical inquiry, which is much affected by environmental factors that reflect conflict and contradiction. The probability from the text that a certain amount of interpolation includes the superscriptions, chapter 1 verse 1, the epilogue, chapter 12 verse 9 to 11, and chapter 12 verse 14, sections such as chapter 3 verse 17, chapter 8 verse 11 to 13, chapter 11 verse 9c. Qoheleth, living in an age when neighboring nations such as the Greeks and the Phoenicians brought about much intermingling of cultures through the Near East. It was the Greek Epicurus who developed a philosophy that swept the world and aroused thinking people to reflect on the problem of life. Among those stimulated by Greek thinking was the author of Ecclesiastes. Like Joshua ben Sirah, he was an adult member of a wisdom school, a professional teacher of wisdom, an honest thinker who opened his soul to the world with all its perplexities and doubts. He wrote partly in prose and partly in poetry form. Now, the message of Ecclesiastes. The importance of the book is seen in the central message. It addresses a basic question, namely, what is the value of life? What is the value of life is the question of this book. In view of the importance of this question, it is not accidental that the author insists upon that urgency with which the goal is to be kept in mind. What is the value of life? Qoheleth's answer lies in the doctrine of opportunism. Example, take your opportunity today. It must be remembered that it was not Qoheleth's intention to teach theology. Neither did the author intend to convey any teaching about God. His main intention was to tell what he had discovered regarding life and what a person may gain from life. The keynote of his teaching was not based on faith or obedience. Whatever is in this book is a result of a personal research and reflection. Qoheleth or Qoheleth does not announce any divine oracle, but gives lessons of life and experience. He does not make any reference to the divine name Yahweh with its nationalist implication. He uses the general term Elohim, meaning God. Elohim, meaning God. The author's outlook was universalistic. This will explain why the name Israel occurs only once. Chapter 1, verse 12. His primary purpose in writing was to search and investigate in wisdom all things that are done under the sun. Chapter 1, verse 13. The author addresses the themes of wisdom and folly twice. Chapter 2, verse 13 to 17, and chapter 7, verse 1 to 12, in order to underscore the importance of the theme of wisdom as opposite to the folly, having shown human wisdom to be inadequate for the understanding of human life. Qoheleth paves the way for divine wisdom in humankind. Ecclesiastes is important because of the light it sheds on Jews' thinking. Here was a person who dared to delve into riddles and unsolved problems, and this with candor, sincerity, and honesty. For this he has been justly praised. The author was a gifted writer who tried to find meaning in life and wrote down honest truths. To do this required a lot of courage because he often went against the current opinion of his day. It is this courage that is a challenge to all his readers. Relevance of Ecclesiastes in Africa. Remember that Ecclesiastes is not Ecclesiastes. Don't forget. Let us read. it is since the author's aim in writing the book was mainly to pass on what he had discovered regarding life and what a man or woman may gain from life, it has some practical application for the African situation today. The book has universalistic appeal, and therefore it is applicable to any man or woman going beyond the boundaries of race, color, and creed. The themes the author discusses are life situations which touched on Africans as they try to answer their God-given call, and as they endeavor to meet the challenges of the world today. In the opening chapters, chapter 1 to 2, the author addressed such relevant issues as the vanity of earthly things, chapter 1, verse 1 to 11. The vanity of wisdom, chapter 1, verse 12 to 18. And pleasures, chapter 2, verse 1 to 12. These same issues are most relevant to the African African situation today, as most people in the African continent pursue pleasure and possession of earthly things, as well as wisdom at a fast rate. Besides, the author challenges the reader to think about the uncertainty of the future. You will read chapter 3, verse 14 to 22. Social disorders, chapter 4, verse 1 to 16, which are so prevalent in Africa today. The importance of reverence for God, chapter 4, verse 17 to chapter 5, verse 6. A gift with which the African is richly endowed, the perversion of justice, chapter 5, verse 7 to 8, from which the continent of Africa suffers greatly. The author decries the uselessness of riches, chapter 5, verse 9 ff, and the desires, chapter 6, verse 7 to 12, and stresses why obedience to rulers, chapter 8, verse 2 to 4, is so important. Finally, the author talks about the place of youth, chapter 11, verse 7 to 10. This is important because 60% of the African population is composed of young people. Yet, the author does not forget to pay tribute to old age. This is important for the African continent since old age is equated with wisdom. The author warns against attachment to the goods of this world. Such a warning is opportune for the people of Africa. Of all the situations in this book which are troubling Africa today, the most important problems we can enumerate are racism and tribalism. We can also name the political and economic situation, abuse of power, dictatorship, oppression of the poor, bribery, embezzlement, etc. Coelet is warning us, quote, vanity of vanities. All things are vanity. That means that in the long run, we must discover our richness in God alone. I repeat, College is warning us, vanity of vanity. All things are vanity. That means that in the long run, we must discover our richness in God alone. Structure of the Ecclesiastes is also in 3 parts, like the book of Ecclesiastes, which is called Sirach. So, Ecclesiastes must probably help us and introduce us into the book of Ecclesiasticus, which title is Fidelity to the Wisdom of God's People. And I recall that Ecclesiastes, the title is All Things Are Vanity. Okay. Then we say the structure of Ecclesiastes. Prologue, chapter 1, from verse 2 to 11. Part 2, Kellich's investigation of life. Chapter 1, verse 12 to chapter 6, verse 9. And then conclusions. People in the presence of mystery. Chapter 6, verse 10 to chapter 12, verse 14. Now, in this Ecclesiastes, they told us that we have a prologue, another prologue somewhere. So let us read first this prologue, because the other prologue is at the end. What the? Epilogue. Okay, sorry. So we will read prologue and then we will go and read epilogue. Let us start with prologue. Title, chapter 1 of the book of Ecclesiastes. The words of David's son, Qoheleth, king in Jerusalem. We introduce from chapter 1, verse 1 to 18 as follows. Qoheleth asserts that the course of nature does not alter itself. I repeat, Qoheleth asserts that the course of nature does not alter itself. Nothing actually is new, and this eternal sameness continues to be the nature of human existence. The author appears to be a man who has had ample experience of life. The wisdom which he possesses does not make any difference to his condition, except that it deepens the sorrow caused by his comprehension of the uselessness of life. The writer repeats, everything is futile or futile 25 times in his book. Everything is futile. The human person, he says, is seeking happiness. But this research is like running after the wind. What is to be done is a question. What is to be done? Stop working and avoid getting involved in anything? The author does not provide any answer to the fundamental questions. The replies to these questions will not be found in his book, but in the gospel. And who wrote the gospel? Jesus Christ. And the gospel, how did he got the gospel? From God. The word of God. That's why he says that everything comes from God. Okay, let us continue. We said the reply to this question will not be found in his book, but in the gospel. Jesus will invite all people to open up their minds and eyes and not to direct their interest only to personal gain and benefit. Instead, the person who labors for another is not laboring in vain for vanity or for the absurd. Let us read now The prologue. Prologue covers chapter 1, verse 2 to 11. Quote, vanity and of vanities, says Kohelet. Vanity of vanities, all things are vanity. What profit has man from all the labor which he toils at under the sun? First question. One generation passes and another comes, but the world forever stays. The sun rises and the sun goes down. Then it presses on to the place where it rises. Blowing now towards the south, then towards the north. The wind turns again and again, resuming its rounds. All rivers go to the sea, yet never does the sea become full. To the place where they go, the rivers keep on going. All speeches is elaborate. There is nothing man can say. The eye is not satisfied with seeing, nor is the ear filled with hearing. What has been, that will be. What has been done, that will be done. Nothing is new under the sun. Even the thing of which we say, see, this is new, that has already existed in the ages that preceded us. There is no remembrance of the men of old, nor of those to come will there be any remembrance among those who come after them. Two is Caleb's investigation of life. After reading the prologue, we pass to 2. 2 is introduced as follows. Colet, we will read, we go to Colet 2, investigation of life. Let us continue. Vanity of wisdom. I, Colet, was king over Israel. This is part 2, not chapter 2. We are getting, because prologue has 1 and 2. Now 2 is Colet's investigation of life. It is from chapter 1, verse 12 to chapter 6, verse 9. But let us introduce vanity of wisdom. I, Colet, was king over Israel in Jerusalem, and I applied my mind to search and investigate in wisdom all things that are done under the sun. a thankless task God has appointed for men to be busied about. I have seen all things that are done under the sun, and behold, all is vanity and a chase after wind. What is crooked cannot be made straight, and what is missing cannot be supplied. Though I said to myself, quote, behold, I have become great and stored up wisdom beyond all who were before me in Jerusalem, and my mind has brought experience of wisdom and knowledge. Yet, when I applied my mind to know wisdom and knowledge, madness and folly, I learned that this also is chase after wind. For in much wisdom there is much sorrow, and he who stores up knowledge stores up grief. Now let us introduce vanity of human happiness. We will start with chapter 2. And we introduce chapter 2, which comprehend verse 1 to 25. I quote, Coelet gives answer to two searching questions. Namely, 1. How can one say that life is profitless? 2. Why can one not enjoy living? Coelet has tested whether this is possible. He has occupied himself with great enterprises, the raising of majestic buildings, the planting of gardens and parks, the amazing of wealth. He has tasted the delights of all that could be regarded as good. He has also known the delights of the love of woman. There is nothing he has denied himself. In all these pursuits, Coelet has discovered that there is no real gain or permanent value in life. While on the one hand, he loads learning because there is much to be said on behalf of wisdom. He is disappointed because in the end of wise person dies just as the fool does. In his bitter experience, Coelet argues that the wise man does not really gain anything more out of life than the fool. Anything obtained in life but toil has to be left and death to other persons who did not toil for it. Toil brings only sorrow. Verse 24 to 26 are very implicating. No, verse 24 to 26 are very emphatic on this point. Let's go and read that verse 24 to 26. It is said, "There is nothing better for man than to eat and drink and provide himself with good things by his labors. Even this, I realized, is from the hand of God. For who can eat and drink apart from him? For to whatever man he sees fit, he gives wisdom and knowledge and joy. But to the sinner, he gives the task of gathering possessions to be given to whatever man God sees fit. This also is vanity and chase after wind." I needed to read that before. So, let us see now chapter 2, vanity of human happiness. It is said, "I said to myself, come, now let me try you with pleasure and the enjoyment of good things." But behold, this too was vanity of laughter. I said, mad and mirth. What good does this do? I thought of beguiling my sense with wine, through my mind was concerned with wisdom, and of taking up folly until I should understand what is best for men to do under the heavens during the limited days of their life. I understood great works. I built myself houses and planted vineyards. I made gardens and parks. I set out in them fruit trees of all sorts. And I constructed for myself reservoirs to water a flourishing woodland. I acquired male and female slaves, and slaves were born in my house. I also had growing hares and cattle and flocks of sheep, more than all who had been before me in Jerusalem. I amassed for myself silver and gold, and the wealth of kings and provinces. I got for myself male and female singers and all human luxuries. I became great, and I stored up more than all others before me in Jerusalem. My wisdom, too, stayed with me. Nothing that my eyes desired did I deny them, nor did I deprive myself of any joy, but my heart rejoiced in the fruit of all my toil. This was my share for all my toil. But When I turned to all the works that my hands had wrought, and to the toil at which I had taken such pains, behold, all was vanity and a chase after winds, with nothing gained under the sun. For what will the man do who is to come after the king? What men have already done. Study of wisdom and folly. I went on to the consideration of wisdom, madness, and folly. And I saw that wisdom has the advantage of folly as much as light has the advantage over darkness. The wise man has eyes in his head, but the fool walks in darkness. Yet I knew that one lot befalls both of them. So I said to myself, if the fool's lot is to befall me also, why then should I be wise? Where is the profit for me? And I concluded in my heart that this too is vanity. Neither of the wise man nor of the fool will there be an abiding remembrance. For in days to come, both will have been forgotten. How is it that the wise man dies as well as the fool? Therefore, I loathed life, since for me the work that is done under the sun is evil. For all is vanity and chase after wind. Study of the fruit of toil is a subtitle. Study of the fruits of toil. To others the profit. To others the profit. And I detested all the fruits of my labor under the sun, because I must leave them to a man who is to come after me. And who knows whether he will be a wise man or a fool? Yet he will have control over all the fruit of my wise labor under the sun. This also is vanity. So my feelings turned to despair of all the fruits of my labor under the sun. For there is a man who has labored with wisdom and knowledge and skills, and to another who has not labored over it, he must leave his property. This also is vanity and a great misfortune. For what profit comes to a man from all the toil and anxiety of heart with which he has labored under the sun? All his days sorrow and grief are his occupation. Even at night his mind is not at rest. This also is vanity. There is nothing better for man than to eat and drink and provide himself with good things by his labors. Even this, I realize it is from the hand of God. For who can eat or drink apart from him? For to whatever man he sees fit, he gives wisdom and knowledge and joy. But to the sinner, he gives the task of gathering possessions to be given to whatever man God sees fit. This also is vanity and chase after vanity. Let us stop here and we will read Living the Present Moment. Yes, living the present moment. Then we pass first to our reading of epilogue. At the end of the book, we said, besides being wise, Carlos taught the people knowledge, and Widget scrutinized and arranged many proverbs. Carlos sought to find pleasing saying and to write down true sayings with precision. The sayings of the wise are like goads, like fixed spikes are the topics given by one collector. As to more than this, my son or my daughter, beware of the making of many books. There is no end, and in much study there is weariness for the flesh. The last word, when all is heard, fear God and keep these commandments, for this is man's all, because God will bring to judgment every work with all its hidden qualities, whether good or bad, all its hidden qualities, whether good or bad. God is the origin of human love. Thank you. Let us stop first here, and you can hear why we came back to Ecclesiastes. I'm Dr. Ndumo Melingi Therese, called by the Lord to fulfill my sacred mission under His light. God bless all of you.